Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, coming to you live once again via Zoom and being socially distant as recommended. Our guest today is Mark Heuwetter. He's the owner of Six Harbors Brewing Company, a family-owned and operated brewery located in Huntington, Long Island. Mark, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me be on your call.
First of all, how are you getting through this pandemic episode?
So we've been getting through. We've been changed our business model. As you know, as a brewery, we were relying on our guests to come into our place. Our brewery is a little bit different from a lot of breweries on Long Island. We depend on customers coming to the brewery. We really don't do any outside distribution, meaning selling our beers to bars and restaurants around the island. So we had to kind of sit down, take a day or two, rethink where we were going to go with this, and decided to join the rest of the crew up there and do curbside and deliveries. So we started that, and we started doing these deliveries around the neighborhoods, and we were bringing our dogs with us. And as we were bringing the deliveries, people would look out and say, "Oh, the brew dogs! Can we go and pet them?" So we found more and more of our customers going out and asking to see the dogs, and we came up with a fun little story to start bringing the dogs to the front door with the customers. So we just hung some empty beer cans around their necks, like the old Bernese mountain dogs back in the Swiss Alps. That would help injured skiers, and holding the whiskey barrels underneath their necks. We did it with beer, and people loved it.
And why not? I mean, and now you mentioned them, so you have to give them personal credit. Who are these wonderful dogs you're talking about?
Well, they're my wife and I's home dogs. They're Buddy and Barley. We call them the Brew Dogs.
Love those names, the Brew Dogs.
And they've been a mainstay at the brewery. Buddy is 3 years old. Barley is 1. So Buddy was at the brewery during the build-out and has been hanging around at the brewery ever since. And people come specifically, hopefully for the beer, but I think in a lot of cases they want to see the Brew Dogs.
You know, the last 5 or 6 shows we've had, everybody has mentioned something, and I said to them, that would make a great T-shirt or slogan. The Brew Dogs I love, and I don't know if you produce hats, T-shirts, things like that, but I think, or even though I guess coasters would be well for beer, but I think that would be great because people love dogs, they love beer. What could be better than the Brew Dogs?
We just introduced Brew Dog shirts this week.
Did you?
We sold out of them.
I can believe that, and I haven't even seen them, but I just think it's a cool image, a great branding, and I could see that all over Long Island, and I didn't even know you before the show, so you already have a big fan here. Tell us, how did this company come about? What makes the Six Harbors Brewing Company unique, other than Buddy and Barley?
Right. Well, I worked on Wall Street for 30 years. I flew a million miles on American Airlines alone, commuting into the city when I wasn't traveling. And I was just looking to do something different. I started brewing in college. I couldn't afford beer at the bars, so I bought a brew kit with my roommate, and we fermented in our closet, and we're the most popular guys on the floor.
Really? What a surprise.
Yeah, so go figure. So got back into brewing about 10 years ago. Saw a lot of my colleagues from my home brewing clubs getting into the industry. I was looking to do something different and decided, let's put a small business and beer together and open up a brewery. So we did that about just over 2.5 years ago, and we've been having fun ever since.
And isn't that the key to life? Enjoy what you do, and you never work a day in your life, right?
That's what they say. I mean, during this whole time, we've been open up 7 days a week since we were officially not allowed to serve customers on March 14th. And we've been open every single day to serve our customers. And it's been unbelievable the amount of support locally and on the island supporting local businesses. Everybody has really come out and really made an effort to help restaurants, the small ice cream shop that is open a little bit. Everybody's kind of doing their part and pitching in.
A lot of love out there. We didn't know it, but I know I feel the same way when I go into my local ice cream store, pizzeria, butcher shop. I appreciate these people more, and I think they take good care of me, and I want to take good care of them. Mark, where are you located in Huntington?
We're in Huntington Village, about 2.5 blocks north of Main Street, right on New York Avenue or 110.
Now, I've heard the term microbrewery. Now, I'm a casual beer drinker. Can you tell me the difference between a craft beer, a regular one, and what a microbrewery, how that fits into the picture?
Sure. Craft is more synonymous with independent brewing, small independent companies that are brewing a small batch production, not that you typically see in your supermarket shelf where you see a lot more of the bigger regionals or national players that are out there. So it's really, guys, there's really not a number that we consider you as a microbrewery or in some cases a nano brewery, where they're doing a lot less beer production in their facility. But it's something that, you're really not on a regional basis or a national basis. You're really more local to your market. In fact, in Suffolk County alone, there's 41 microbreweries in Suffolk County, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. We are the largest county in the state for microbreweries.
I never realized it. Does the Commerce Department know about that so they can promote it?
Well, we talk about that through our local Brewers Guild. And in fact, I think the hot spot, is in Riverhead and also in Bayshore. I think both of those towns have around 5 to 6 microbreweries in those organizations or those villages.
Really? Now that I'm getting the education on beer and breweries, what's the difference between an ale and a lager? When I go into the stores, I see that, of course, and not being a real heavy-duty drinker, what are the differences?
Sure. It's a different style of beer. In today's market, we call them quick ales. You can ferment and create a beer from start to finish in about 14 days. Whereas a lager is a different type of fermenting process. It's usually bottom fermented. Takes about 30 days to build. So you'll see a lot of breweries out there today building a lot of ales because they're quicker to produce, to get out there to market and serve their customers. The lagers take a little bit longer, and it's a different type of style of beer.
As I'm asking you these questions, something just came to me. Do Long Islanders as a group like something different about their beer? Like, I know in some parts of the country, people like mustard and ketchup on their hamburgers. Do they like a sweeter beer on Long Island or a flavored beer or a salty beer, if there is such a thing?
Well, I think Long Islanders are kind of part of the national trend. The IPA or the India Pale Ale, as we like to call it, IPA for short, has been really a popular beer on Long Island. You need to have at least one or two of those in your brewery to cater to that market space. But at Six Harbors, we're kind of like the IRS. We like to kind of tax everybody, and AKA meaning that we like to bring beer to the base and have something for everybody. So we have lagers, we have ales, we have wheats, we have porters, we have stouts, we have kolches, we have hellas's, different styles of beer. And people really like that. Our demographic here in Huntington is probably a little bit higher than most breweries in terms of their age population. And we find that our number one selling beer, believe it or not, is a blueberry wheat. We sell
Really?
that 2-to-1 over any other beer in our brewery. And people are looking for something light, drinkable, and in some cases fruity. We have a lot of gentlemen who come in saying, I don't drink fruit beers, but I give them a pint of it, and they come back for a second because it's very subtle, very smooth, and very drinkable.
Now, I have to tell you, in all the years, and I've been on radio 33 years, you are the very first person who compared your business to the IRS. That is very unique. I think you're going to hold a place in our Hall of Fame. Our studio manager, Sean Novat, will probably put your picture up on the wall. So someday you'll have to come down, bring him a blueberry wheat, but also let him know that first one to compare the business to the IRS. I'm sure the IRS...
It comes back to my old asset management days in a class I took over at CW Post for my certified financial planning designation. and the teacher was an ex-IRS agent, and she was teaching a tax class, and she kind of made a very simple process for us of what the IRS is trying to do. They want to try to get a widest basis possible so they can tax them. And I kind of took the same idea, the same philosophy for the brewery, is that I want to be able to create a lot of different beers for a lot of people out there. So
it's a good point.
So, for example, if you take a sour beer, which is a very small percentage of the marketplace, maybe 0.5%. Now, if I made a bunch of sour beers for people, I wouldn't have a lot of people at the brewery. But if I do make beers like IPAs and wheats and pilsners and lagers, I'll have more of an opportunity to grab more people to come in and taste beer at the brewery.
Mark, at this point, I'd like our audience to know that you're listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan, and today I'm speaking with Mark Heuwetter. He's the owner of a unique business on Long Island called Six Harbors Brewing Company, a family-owned business and operated and located right in Huntington. Mark, I've heard the word hop. What's a hop?
Hop is one of the ingredients in beer. So there's generally 4 ingredients in beer. You have water, hops, grain, and yeast. Those 4 components, you put them together and you can make beer. And we actually grow our hops on the property. Not all of them, but we have a certain percentage that we have. And when we grow them and we harvest them, we make enough beer for about 620 gallons of beer for the fall season.
That's amazing. Now, can you take us, I find this very interesting. You know, we think of a baker each morning, they get in at some ungodly time and put the muffins in and those good biscuits and the cupcakes, etc. Can you take us through the beer making process? If we start at day 1, is it a 3-week process? It's a year process, etc. How does it go?
It's a 14-day process, and it's a 6 steps into the process where we have to crack our grain, and then we take our grain, we put it into our mash tun, we add water to it, we step it to take out all the enzymes, and those enzymes have very high-powered sugars in them. Then we take that water, which we call wort, or as we like to call it in the industry, sweet tea, because it's filled with a lot of sugar in it. And we put it into our fermenter where we add yeast. Yeast loves sugar. They turn it into fermentable alcohol. And then after those yeasts have stressed out after 5 to 7 days, that becomes alcohol. And then we hop the beer, where we put those hops we spoke about earlier into the beer to add more character and flavor and profile to it. And we let that sit for a few more days. And then after that, we cold crash the beer to kill all the yeast particles and let them drop to the bottom of the fermenter. And once that's done, we do a yeast dump to get rid of all those particles and any hop residue that's left over. And after that, once we have that cold crashed, we carbonate the beer, because here in America, we love carbonated beer versus over in England where they really don't like to have carbonated beer. And after the carbonation, we let it mature for another few more days, keg it, put it into the cooler, connect it to the taps, and serve you a pint.
This has really been an education. I would think this could be a 2-hour college course on this, or a high school course, or adult ed or something. But you seem to really know your business very well, and obviously you do. How much beer do you produce on a monthly basis?
We produce about 120 kegs of beer, or about 60 barrels. A barrel consists of 31 gallons of beer, and most people, if they're familiar with kegs back in their college days, those half kegs carry 15.5 gallons of beer.
You really have this down. I mean, this is like the chemistry professor telling us what we're doing here.
Well, it's amazing, Bill, that you say that. Is in today's in the bigger breweries, they are hiring chemists to help them with their beer making process. It's becoming very, very sophisticated out there, and there are college courses today. There are actually bachelor programs for beer making out there. You can do it online, or you can actually go to a university and study beer making process and get a degree on it.
This is fascinating because it sounds like beer is the new wine.
You know what? It is, and it's starting to morph into um, other other products, if you will. So we do a tequila infused beer at the brewery for Cinco de Mayo. So we take old tequila barrels and we put beer in them and we let them sit there and age and let the beer soak up the flavor of the residue tequila and the oak in the barrels to infuse that into the beer. They do it wine these days. They're doing with old whiskey barrels and bourbon barrels. They're taking stouts and porters and letting them soak and pull out that natural flavor of that particular spirit and that particular wood profile into the beer.
How do you see your beer changing post-pandemic as we're coming out of things now and hopefully getting back to what may be a new normal, but hopefully closer to the normal than the new?
Well, you know, we've been working with our New York State Brewers Guild Association and, looking at our guidelines. And we've been very diligent in this new age right now where today, you're sitting down at a brewery, you're basically, you need to be seated at all times. You can't stand up and congregate with folks. If you need to get out to, say, go to a food truck or use the restroom, you need to put your mask on. At the brewery itself, we're very diligent with, sanitation and sanitizing everything that's around us, our countertops, the pens. To get into detail, if we use a pen, we have two cups, a clean cup and a dirty cup. So if you use a pen, we have to put it into the dirty cup, and then we have to disinfect it during the day to reuse it, to put it back into the clean cup. Our restrooms, the door handles, the handles on the doors of the entrance to the brewery, the picnic tables, all have to be recycled and reused from a disinfectant and sanitary level every time we have new customers come into our place.
Well, one, I want to thank you as a consumer, just plain out, for protecting us, for doing all that. It's a part of a business, and we learn that every time we talk to someone here on My Hometown. But it's part of the business today that I guess everybody has to do. But it's also maybe the reason why now New York is number one in the country in fighting back against this terrible disease and protecting its citizens. So on behalf of everybody, thanks for all that extra work.
Well, you know, it is a lot more work, but, you know, we see it in our customers. You know, we have customers that are stopping us saying, thank you for doing that. You know, it might be as simple as spraying down the seat of the picnic table or having the disinfectant spread out around the brewery. We've actually taken our beer and we brought it to a distiller and distilled it down to alcohol, pure alcohol, and we cut it with water to a 60% volume solution, and we use it as disinfectant for our customers so they can clean their hands at the brewery.
Well, I'll tell you, any place that I see is meticulous and careful about how they're treating us now, us being the consumer, that says to me a lot about the business that I'm going into. That says they probably have a clean kitchen, that things are run well in the background. And if they're doing it out front, you don't see a man or a woman who has one neat room in the house and the rest are a mess. It's all either very neat, meticulous, or very messy. So it says a lot. I think your customers probably pick up on that and realize how much you care about them and appreciate it. And obviously you have a great product. Mark, before we go further, I want our audience to know that you're listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan, and today we're speaking with Mark Heuwetter. He's the owner of a unique business on Long Island called Six Harbors Brewing Company. This is a family-owned and operated brewery located right in Huntington. And that's a nice way of saying if you want to visit him, it's right there in Suffolk County. It's not too far away. Mark, if I understand that you also have an online business and a website. Tell us about that and what percentage of the business is online as opposed to in your store?
Sure. It's a very funny story about our website. When we first opened, we took the approach of social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we built a very archaic and old-looking website. And I guess the silver lining with everything that's been going on, really pushed us to revamp our website and build an online store to it. So we now have something that we think is very modern, very slick and chic looking out there. On our homepage, we have the Buddy and Barley photo gallery. So every time we do a delivery with the dogs, we take a picture of our customers and we put it up on the gallery. So, everybody could see the people that we just delivered to. They get to see their pictures up on the website with all the other folks. So, and on top of that, we integrated an online store from Shopify. We worked with to integrate the online store with the website. And when we were, in full throttle mode for curbside and pickup delivery service, that was 100% of our business at that point. The people were calling; they weren't calling in anymore, or at first they were calling in, and we were redirecting them to the website so they can purchase the beer. They can pick a date, they pick a time that they come either to pick it up, or we could deliver out to them. And we also built something that was kind of unique that we let customers that they really like a lot. You can build your own 4-pack, meaning that you could select 4 different beers and have it built as a 4-pack. So you can get a wheat beer, you can get a Pilsner, you can get a lager, and you can get an IPA for no additional cost. And the reason why we were so easy and allowed to do that was that we can our beer on premise per order. We don't pre-can our beer and keep it in the cooler and sell it as 4-packs as we go along. So each beer is made specifically at the tap in the front and canned. So when we were originally open for dine-in, people could see the whole canning process and understand how that worked, from getting the can, putting CO2 in the can, putting beer in the can, putting a lid on it, and then can it. All there on the front counter as kind of entertainment value for people to understand how a beer gets canned and they take it home.
I had no idea all this goes into it, but I will tell you that I like, because you go into a big store and I see something and it's 24 bottles of beer. Well, I don't want a case if I haven't tried it. But now if I can try some different types of your beer, different flavors, and you have me already hooked on that blueberry wheat. You mentioned that before, and now that's in my head. I know once it's like seeing the donut commercials. Once I see that, I have to jump over to Dunkin' Donuts. So you've won me over. Let me ask you, if someone is looking, are you in stores on Long Island, or do they have to go directly to you?
We're not. The only commercial retail spot that we're at is actually California Pizza Kitchen over at the Walt Whitman Mall. That's our first real corporate account. It's really all at the brewery. The distribution game is really another business. It's a different dynamic of our company. And our business model when we first opened was going to be 80-20, 80% inside, 20% outside. Technically, for us, it's really been for the over 2 years we've been open, 99% at the brewery, because trying to understand and play the distribution game, it's a whole other business that we would have to get involved in. We have to hire salespeople, distribution partners, Rocco and Bruno to go collect your money, because sometimes people don't want to pay you on time.
But Buddy and Barley can't do that?
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe we could institute them, because they're so lovable that people would just fall in love with the dogs and just hand over the cash whenever they want.
So I think sometimes that approach is actually better if people love you, rather than the mean guys or the, what's those tough dogs, the pit bulls that scare you. If you have 2 lovable dogs, how can you not want to pay them, or at least give them part of their obligation?
Right.
Tell us, I know you have a unique group of flavors, and I'm looking at a list here and that. And again, you've already got me mouth-watering when you talked about the blueberry. That's just something I like. Tell us some of the different flavors that you have and that's available.
We basically created a beer called Not Your Father's IPA. And that was really developed, going back in history when I was younger and still a Met fan. I used to go to Met games with my dad, and you would see out in the past center field would be the Rheingold.
You're that old? You remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
I do too.
Listen, I remember back when the seats were wooden and yellow.
Okay.
That's how far back I go. But basically, Rheingold was your father's beer, and it was really an IPA. But nobody really called them IPAs. They just called it beer back then. They called it a beer, a lager, an ale. And Rheingold was an IPA. It was really the first IPA that was out there with any commercialism to it. So I wanted to build a beer that was recognized Rheingold, but also, created to the modern ingredients today and call it Not Your Father's IPA. And people really tend to love it.
I love that name. I'm thinking of a person like me now, the casual beer drinker. And you mentioned you have, you could make up a 4-pack of any of the 4 that you might have that's available, and they're, basically produced fresh right there. What would you start off a beginner like me with if I came in? I'd say, what would you recommend that's going to keep me coming back?
Well, one of the things that most breweries, in fact, probably all the breweries that are doing out there, is they want to educate the consumer. So we give out a lot of samples. So what I do at my particular brewery, and I'm sure it happens at a lot of other breweries as well, is we'll make you stand there for a little bit and we'll talk to you and try to find out what kind of beers that you like, what you might be interested in. And we'll let you start sampling the beer to make sure that we find you the right beer that you're looking for, or even trying to test some beers. So we have flights. So instead of buying, a 16-ounce pint of beer and saying, well, that was a good beer, but I probably wouldn't have it again, we offer 4 flights of 5 ounces. So you can sample these different beers to see which one you like, or try something that you weren't aware of. Like we talked about before, the blueberry wheat. We have a lot of gentlemen who say, I don't drink fruit beers, but they have a flight with maybe that blueberry wheat in it, and they'll come back and go, hey, I told you I didn't like that beer because it was a fruit beer. Give me a pint of that. I really like it.
I love that idea, and I think it's so good for the consumer. It's like when you go to the restaurants and they give you the mini desserts. I don't need, 7 scoops of the same ice cream in a dish, but I get a little of this, a little of that. I take whatever I like. And this is an opportunity for us, the consumer, to try the different beers that you offer and see if they're appealing to us, which one we like the best. As I said, when you said that blueberry wheat, something about that just got in my mind. So I know that's going to stay with me. You're going to see me at your door bothering you a little bit, but trying to get things going there. Mark, once again, before we wrap up, tell us, where are you located in Huntington?
We're located at 243 New York Avenue, or AKA Route 110, 2.5 blocks north of Main Street.
And what would we see if we pull up next to you? Is there a church, a McDonald's, a sneaker store?
Well, what's really interesting is, back from my asset management days, one of my jobs was in marketing. So if you drive by us and people ask, where are you? Can you give us a location? I go, look for the keg mailbox. Like, okay. What? Yeah, a keg mailbox. You'll see a keg that is built as a mailbox. And once you see that, you're at our place.
Now, I want some special treatment if I come in. Do I get to meet Buddy and Barley?
We have a lot of requests for Buddy and Barley. They come throughout the day. They have their delivery. So sometimes, you're coming to see them and they might not be there because they're out on the delivery, but they're with us every day.
All right. I want their business. If I come in there, I want to be able to shake their paw. Mark, we want to thank you. We want our audience to know we've been talking to Mark Heuwetter. He's the owner of the Long Island business, Six Harbors Brewing Company, that's located in Huntington on 243 New York Avenue. Am I right?
It is, correct.
All right. See, I wanted to make sure I got it. It's a family-owned and operated brewery right here in Huntington, Long Island. Mark, please let us know how WHPC can continue to spread the good word in the future. And hopefully someday when the world gets back to normal, Buddy and Barley will make a visit to the studio. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. And just ask your patrons when they come and they want to know what is the meaning of Six Harbors. The real answer is there's 6 harbors in Huntington, and we make a lot of beer named after those harbors.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. Again, look forward to trying that blueberry wheat. Thanks, Mark.
Bill. Have a great day.
I'm Bill Horan. You've been listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC at ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.